Alright guys, I've asked for some feedback from Philemon, and so now I'm going to ask for some specific questions for you. And but before we get going on it, I'm going to give you just a little story just to help you understand a little bit of what is happening. Let's say that your name is Philly, and you live in a place way over here, and you've got a little mohawk, and you've got someone that's a good friend, and his name is Oni. His name is Oni, and your name is Philly. Well, let's say, for instance, Philly does something bad against you, maybe steals something from you, and then he leaves. He goes a great distance. And he's gone for a while, and he meets this guy who's actually in prison. His name is Paul. Let's call it Paulie. And Paulie says, "Hey, Oni, you need to go back to Philly and ask forgiveness." So Paulie sends Oni back to talk to you, Philly, and to ask forgiveness. So he's not only sending Oni back to you, and you're Paulie, but he's sending a letter to ask you to have Oni back. So I want you to think of that situation, because we come to the real situation of Philemon. That's the book we're working on. And in Philemon, what actually happened, there's this guy, his name was Philemon. He lives in Colossae. You see it there, I just circled it. He lives there, and he has a slave named Onesimus. Instead of Oni, it's Onesimus. And Onesimus is a slave to Philemon. Let's call this Philemon. And then we have Onesimus. Well, Onesimus, as a slave, he leaves. He travels. He escapes, and he comes to Rome. At Rome, there's a guy named Paul, who's in prison. And Paul converts Onesimus and says, "Hey, Onesimus, you are a slave. You need to go back to Philemon and have him take you back." Now here's the deal. In Rome, in the Roman Empire, as a slave, if you left, if you escaped, your punishment was death. Because Philemon, if he was a boss and had a bunch of slaves, and the slaves left and he didn't punish them, then all the slaves would leave, right? So the punishment was always death, or some severe punishment, if you actually escaped as a slave. And Paul, realizing that Onesimus came to know the Lord, Paul brings him to know Jesus. He also knows Philemon. And so Paul writes a letter to Philemon to have Onesimus back. Now, Onesimus has to make that long voyage back. You see here, it's 11,800 miles by land and sea. It would take months to make it all the way back. Not only that, Onesimus has no idea how Philemon is going to respond when he gets the letter and he comes back himself. Because, like he said, the punishment is death. So, I want you to read through Philemon and try and answer a couple questions for me. If you could answer them in the next couple days, that would be great. Here's my questions. Why is this book important enough to be in the Bible? You know, it's not a very long piece of the Bible. It's not very many verses. And it really, you wonder, does it have a lot of doctrine? Does it have anything in particular that we would need to have it in the Bible? Why do you think it's important enough to be in the Bible? And what do you think Paul is communicating to all of us? If it is supposed to be in the Bible, what do you think Paul is communicating to all of us? Outside of Onesimus and Philemon, he's obviously communicating something to Onesimus and Philemon. But since this is in the Bible, what do you think Paul is communicating to us? Why do you think God let this be written and be put in the Bible? So those are my questions for you. I'm looking forward to the responses. Xander and Jacoby, make sure that I read the book with you, and that you give me your responses as well.